Thank you for taking this most delightful trek with us. Good evening. Live long and prosper. Today's installment is about Discovery's season 4, episodes 5 and 6, titled The Examples and Stormy Weather. Tonight's episode is a double header. That's right. We're covering two different episodes of Discovery, all in tonight's live episode of Trekker's Delight. The first episode we're covering is, as I said before, The Examples. That is episode 5, and the second is Stormy Weather, episode 6. In the examples, we first learn that the DMA is actually man made. Not only do we learn this, but Stamets' rival, if you will, is being
Well,
placed on
being
the
made.
ship to help motivate the crew. Also, the DMA is, of course, on its way to destroy an asteroid belt. Burnham decides to leave the ship to help evacuate as many of the prisoners as possible. Of course, in stormy weather, the crew ventures into a subspace rift created by the DMA. Meanwhile, Book faces a strange visitor from his past as he attempts to use the spore drive. Also, Zora's emotions develop in such a way where it almost puts the crew at risk. Tonight, I am joined by my co hosts, William Wofford, Manhel Eunice, and Marie Brownhill. Can you all introduce yourselves to us tonight?
All right, hey guys, my name is William Walford. Welcome. Back. It's so good to be here. And looks like we got a full. Actually, it's not. Mavericks are really happy because we got the full house here today. From Little Rock, Arkansas, crazy Star Trek fan. Know so much, and yeah, love you guys.
All right, Mandy, you want to go?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Hi, guys. My name is Manhel Eunice. I'm an avid Star Trek fan. I'm really happy to be here on Trekker's Delight. It's good to see everyone. Hope you've had a really good week. I just finished up the episodes and kind of rewatched them to kind of refresh myself. So I'm really pumped to have this conversation. I'm really happy to see everyone.
Hi, everybody. I am Marie Brownhill, and I write semi-professionally about Star Trek for Unimetrics 47 with Game Industry News. Huge Star Trek fan. Note the very Spock tree behind me. Hallmark has thrown up on my Christmas tree. And I, too, I just finished Stormy Weather, so I am good to go. All right, Michael.
All right, and we have joining us. This is the first time that we have him with us on the live show. He's recorded a couple of episodes for some of our other shows, but Michael Greer, can you please introduce yourself to us?
Hi, everyone. Hey, Trek Nation. My name is Michael Greer. I live in Washington, D.C., and I am so excited to be here. I do not have a treat that would make Hallmark proud, but I have a dog that'll probably be chiming in at some point, and she's a huge Star Trek fan, too.
No worries. So we've got dogs and cats in the house. It's okay.
I was about to say, if your dog barks and makes my own personal grudge flee, we're gonna have words.
I'm glad that we can see. I'm just glad we can see your whole face this time.
Yes.
Well, he doesn't know. He doesn't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, the replay of his short trip.
Yeah.
We're just gonna chalk it up to
Good.
growing pains. It's growing
Yeah.
pains for Trekker's Delight. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's get started. So remember, we have 1 hour and we have 2 episodes, so we really got to get in. We've got to get into it. So today we're looking at both episodes. I prefer to go in order, so we look at episode 5 first, right? The examples. Marie, I have a feeling you have some strong feelings about that particular episode. Now, in this episode, we see Burnham and Book on an asteroid belt owned by the Emerald Chain. They are there to free some prisoners of the chain. While there, these prisoners first question Starfleet's motivations. Then it's revealed that most of the prisoners there are serving long terms for some relatively minor crimes, with the exception of one character who murdered someone. First, what are your thoughts about Trek opting not to go full in and really serve us some truly despicable prisoners instead of the vanilla, absolutely no pun intended there, prisoners we were served with? Also, question number two questions. Also,
Ooh,
Burnham had to remind Book
I should be
that
taking notes.
that Federation citizens have their own agency. Book clearly was not satisfied with this. Marie, to what end would Book violate others' rights if it fit within his ethics?
So let me address that first question. So the Akali are not Federation citizens, right? Like that's actually why they have to ask for Federation asylum, which is ultimately the solution that Burnham crafts. But what I really think is that this episode was playing with a couple of concepts. One is who is worthy of saving. Two is how far does personal agency go? And three, what is power? What is justice when you're looking at larger structures like how this particular colony was being run under the Emerald Chain? The problem with that particular plot line is that it was kind of thin as far as real substance goes. So they don't really ever tease any of that out. And so what we end up with is kind of like an easy out, right? Because it would have been a much more interesting episode if we'd had the opportunity to explore who deserves saving. If they had done truly heinous things, what kind of moral quandary would that have been for Burnham and Book? Like, do we let a genocidal fascist, do we condemn him to death because he clearly deserves it? Or do we bring him on board the Discovery and grant him Federation clemency? How do you balance that? But they don't go there. So they actually serve up kind of like this milquetoast, the Emerald Chain is evil kind of response. And I really am kind of disappointed in this episode because they don't do that. I don't think Book's, and moving to your second question, I don't think Book's issue is agency. I think what's actually happening is that Book is so obsessed now with the DMA that Felix, who is the character who was played beautifully by Michael Greyeyes, a Canadian Indigenous actor. Felix at that point starts stepping in for some of the losses that Book sustained with the loss of Quajon, right? And in that sense, since he has this, we know he has the survivor's guilt. We know he's struggling with this, and now he has the opportunity to save people from the same entity that ate his homeworld, and he can save them where he couldn't before. And so it's almost like Felix transposes with his Quajon loved ones that he lost. So I think this is a much more interesting conversation when you look at it from that perspective, as opposed to talking about agency. Though I do think agency is interesting because I love that Burnham respects Felix's agency. He says, I want to die. I accepted that I was going to die. I was going to do I knew this. And I just wanted to make sure that these other people who don't deserve the fate that I got don't suffer the fate that I'm going to discuss, that I'm going to suffer. Because, there's no question that the DMA is actually going to eat this world, right? Like eat this asteroid. There's never any question. This is not a subtle episode. And I really, really wish that they had taken time to develop a lot of these aspects a little bit more and go a little deeper into what happened. Because if they had had anybody other than Michael Greyeyes, I think, imbuing Felix with this real kind of reflective gravitas, this plot would have failed completely. And they're almost trading on the Magic Indian stereotype, but that's a whole conversation.
William?
I echo everything that Marie said, and I just, as I was watching it, I'll tell you exactly what. More so emphasis on their justice system and how they handled things. If that's where you want me to go with it, if that's right. I was more so thinking like the crimes that they committed, and they get to serve almost what I'm guessing life sentences there,
Mhm.
and they're supposed to be left there to die. I can't help what as I'm watching that entire scene when they were each telling their story. It's like, oh wow, it sounds very, very, very familiar. You know, very familiar as to our current system today, where you can get locked up for so many years over 2 grams of weed, and it's so it boiled my blood to the point where I'm just like, wow, same script, different cast. But that's what Star Trek does. You know, they let you know like just how ridiculous things are, but you have to look at it through a different scope to understand just how ridiculous it is, how incredibly stupid it is. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that system, and then the fact that they were just leaving them to die, and I'm like, so this is definitely not a diplomacy in any regard. This is like a dictatorship. You would leave these people to die for getting some food because they were hungry or something to that effect, and just to make everyone else fall in line. Good for you. Because now what's happening now is that everyone is on the same level, whether you like it or not. I'm like,
Right? I
everyone
mean,
is
it's
on the
kind of
same level.
like Star Trek did
Period.
Les Miserables.
Exactly, exactly. And I hope that minister or head honcho, whoever that guy was, knows that when he accepts the fact that he is now a refugee, which also I feel like is throwing when who said that? I believe Burnham said that to the guy,
Mhm.
referring to him as refugee. I think that's really ironic because of how our American society in its government state tends to treat its refugees. So it's basically saying like you treat these people like crap, but then when you come to the same level and you become that, what does that say about you? Will you change behavior, or is this your karma? And now, I hate that the DMA is doing what it's doing, and all that jazz. But at the same time, yeah, you gotta watch how you treat people, because if you don't, it's gonna come back and bite you in the butt. And that's what I think. Jermaine, you are muted.
Thank you so very much. We have someone on YouTube who dropped us a note. Brandon says the whole concept of who was worth saving was already explored several times in Trek. The most in depth version was in Voyager, season 7, episode 12, Repentance. Several times during that discussion, Michael, I saw you nodding your head. I also see you nodding your head as it relates to this comment. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so as a diehard Voyager fan, I when I watched this episode, I immediately thought back to Seven of Nine's nanoprobes being used to repair the emotional compass, for lack of a better word, or the consciousness of an inmate. And so the question was, should someone be in that Voyager episode was should someone be executed, even though they have now the ability or have been able to, had a deficiency that prevented them or allowed them to do the crime in the beginning. In this instance, we have a person who is essentially punishing themselves. And how far should we go? And going back to your question or your component around book, like how far is book willing to go to trample on the rights of someone? But we have someone punishing themselves, and book is ultimately saying like, hey, no, like where you shouldn't do this. We need to step in and prevent this from happening. And that was something that Janeway had to weigh in that moment, where she really had to say like, I see this. We promised, we were going to take these prisoners and we were going to just transport them for you, but now we see this change, and so I definitely see that, and so I get the mirroring that is happening there, and I think that Trek did a good job in that episode, in this episode, I should say, of really exploring that. I wish that, to your point, I really wish that they actually did dig deeper and actually do truly like heinous crimes. And I was hoping that everyone would have a bit of a heinous crime. But I will say, I think that book in this episode is one of the things that where grief is taking him. Where grief is taking him, and I think that in grief, he's allowing grief to allow him to have almost a savior complex, and he is utilizing that not only to just jump ahead, since we are talking about 2 episodes. I think he's using that grief to create a savior complex in this episode as well as in the next, and so yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. That's okay. There's a lot going on in the chat, and I can't
I love
I can't
it.
move some of my controls because there's so much going on. All right, so let's do this. In the interest of time, I was supposed to go to Manny. But let's do this. Let's pivot to Michael. There's a question for Michael. At the end of episode 5, we learned that Zora has developed emotions in addition to sentience. Michael, all during the original show, right? Kirk, Spock, all of that. We watched Spock struggle with balancing his 2 halves, his Vulcan half, his human half. Through TNG, we were privy to Data's attempts to grapple with human behavior. And Voyager 7 of 9 reassimilated into human culture. Now we have Zora. How does that compare or contrast?
Yeah, one of the things that I was really rewatching it probably like maybe an hour ago. So I woke up this morning at 4:15 a.m. East Coast time just to watch it. Just so I'm obsessed. I don't want to see any spoilers. So anyway, but watching it again about an hour ago, one of the things that I was thinking during Data's whole process of gaining emotions, once he got his emotional chip, do you remember during the movie where he was immediately able to just turn off his emotional chip? One of the things I thought of, Zora is not able to do that. Zora is really not in control of her emotions. And I use her not knowing if that is the correct pronoun, but I am assuming given what we saw during the mini trek, or the trek short. But I was really struck by that. Every time for the most part we see like this emotional like pathway that characters are traveling, they are in control of their emotions and they are able to really say like, except for Spock a couple of times when he allowed his anger and rage to really surface, they are really in control of their emotional journey and their emotional process, except for very few limited moments. Zora seems to be experiencing these emotions and she's not really in control. And that is very stunning to me. Wasn't that was an excellent short.
Also, I really can't fault her for falling in love with Aldous Hodge.
I can't either.
Right? Like, I would be on that train.
And so I really thought that it was interesting. And I love the play that they're doing with creating Gray as kind of that emotional compass and that emotional guide as Zora is coming to that realization. But and that parallels what we see. There's always someone that kind of steps in and helps this character understand and guide the emotional awakening that they're experiencing. And I'm liking that. But I do like where we're starting, which is from a place of kind of, instead of being restrained, we're starting out from a place where it's like emotions are going wild. And
that's
where
also been a sub theme of the season too, because that's, we get the whole Culber arc, and I think Ruan Tarka actually serves as a really great foil for Stamets in terms of how Stamets is learning how to interact with each other as part of the members of the crew, as part of a community. I didn't mean to stop you. I thought that was really interesting in the examples, and it gets kind of carried through actually into Stormy Weather because visually everybody forms actual tactile communities to go into the pattern buffer.
So we have a comment also in YouTube. I see the ship Zora as an innocent, almost like Quora is in Tron Legacy, real, logical, emotional, and free. I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses, so I'm having to do this. But also learning about the harshness of reality, and I think it's a fantastic arc, and I think it's going to be a fun thing to explore. Michael, were you done with your thoughts? By the way, all
My
done.
bad.
All right, no, all good. Manny, so as it relates to what Michael was just talking about, and just that development there. What are your thoughts?
About Zora becoming emotional.
Hmm.
I thought I mean, again, I've had an overarching kind of theme about where I see Star Trek moving, where AI, the development of AI, and this all comes, I think, back to Voyager trying to develop holographic rights and trying to understand synthetic life in a different way. It's been a theme actually for a really long time. In DS9, in an early episode, they had this like organism that kind of lived in the computer, and O'Brien like made it a pet file and kept it and so forth. And so that what comes to me as a recurring thought is the idea of life being independent of the biological function and yet still able to process and understand that it has emotion. Like what makes consciousness at the end of the day, that is the sort of the idea. And it's explored in many different genres, and that's great. But within the idea of Star Trek, AI has been mostly controlled. And in the Romulan ideal, it's been rejected. We've seen that recently with the Koat Malad and the Zatvash and the cool thing. So what I see with Zora, I think, is actually an
Skynet.
undercurrent I see an undercurrent of like a
Sorry.
larger plot point of
I have a
like
Terminator stuck in my throat.
that's okay. I just see Zora being like a larger plot point to like some counterpoint that we haven't seen yet. And I think that again, like I think there's some overarching existential thread that's introduced in Picard. And whether it's extra dimensional, extra galactic, whatever it is, it's synthetic. And this is where we have this consciousness sort of emerging from synthetic life. It's different, which means it's alien. It's different than like just seeing like the Ryzian symbol on like a human face. Like trying to give some sort of humanity to the technology is very difficult. I think that is also hard to imbue.
Also tentacular. I don't know why, but apparently. Thank you so much, Secret Agent Man. Yeah, like I never quite understood why the android society, the synthetic society, had to come out of that rift, sort of like Cthulhu. And I was just like, you're saying something about how you feel about synthetic life forms while also starring a synthetic life form in a sympathetic mold. I'm gonna need you to stop giving me mixed messages, Picard. Just saying.
Picard, any discussion of Picard opens up a whole nother. They're gonna have to be going back for years and kind of fixing a lot of the storylines that they opened up and did not flesh out. So yeah, Picard.
Okay.
So what you're saying is we're going, like, on our Patreon special for Drunk Trek, we're gonna drink a lot of wine and complain about Picard.
Yeah,
Because
yes,
I'm down.
support it.
Interesting.
I'm down.
I support it.
I don't understand. I don't know what you guys mean. So I'm fascinated with the idea that there's some kind of not followed up threads in Picard, because I thought it had a lot of throw. Again, I love having these conversations because I mean I didn't catch everything. I don't know what y'all are talking about. So if y'all let me know what you mean, because I thought Picard was this masterstroke of the continuance of like the idea of measure of a man and Data becoming like sentient life, and what is, and the idea, the wonderful conversation between Picard and Guinan about what is a slave race and how to create like a synthetic, like ultimately what they did was create a new type of life that served the Federation, and then it rebelled. Now the ideation of its rebellion wasn't natural, right? It was unnatural. So whether or not that's a true rebellion is very different, but like still the consequences of that, the rejection of the synthetic life forms and stuff like that in that time. And I have some theories later that we'll get to about what I think is going on with the DMA and that sort of. But we'll get to
I have
that
a
later.
truly unpopular theory that we're going to get to.
I was going to ask if just to wind this back, knowing that Zora is sorry, Jermaine, but just knowing that Zora is becoming sentient and that she can feel based upon what we heard in Stormy Weather, how much of a right does the crew have to continue to ask her or command her to do things? Without her actually having input. Going back to, oh my God, what are the things Data protected?
The exocomms.
The exocomms.
Thank you.
The exocomms that and Lower Decks made one of them an asshole, and it was fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. Peanut butter.
Right, because like at this point, I remember sitting there watching this whole process where Burnham is about to become like fried Burnham, or maybe literally Burnham. Pick your words. Yeah, and I swear to God, this is only my first glass of wine, so like, I'm already here. Because here is Zora, and Discovery's literally her body. Mm-hmm. And they're taking her in to these very dangerous locations. And how much has she consented to this?
It's the Ultron Paradox, right? Like Ultron found consciousness while he was interacting with in the Marvel movies, right? Like the waking of consciousness is a very ticklish thing because it's independent of time.
But I also sort of feel like she's so much nicer because she's not James Spader. James Spader voiced Ultron in the movies.
Oh, right. Yeah. So, okay. Currently on Discovery, there is a computer, right? And it's separate from Zora. Zora is the sphere data come to life. Consciousness. It's an organism within this computer, basically, that's being held. So it itself is independent, technically, of even though it's taking ownership.
Manny. You're kind of going into your question.
All right.
Let him do it.
Even if she is the sphere data, we've established, more or less, at least in the previous season, that we can't separate the sphere data from Discovery. Maybe in 3191 or whenever we are, they have a way to do that, but like that hasn't been explored. So yeah, like she's stuck there. It's still like a matter of her physicality on a level that doesn't exist for any other member of the crew.
Okay.
Interesting.
So let's pivot real quick. Let's go to Manny. Because I think Manny can answer his question. No, it's all good. Manny can answer his question, and then he can also kind of sort of dovetail in what he was going to offer in this point. All right. So between these two episodes, the crew is wrestling with the knowledge of the DMA and the fact that it is man-made. If this is man-made, how can this be explained, Manny? Please do tell.
I mean, I don't have all the answers. What I'm trying to do is put together a picture. So I've been doing kind of an autopsy going back through some of these episodes. And what I've
what you're saying is you're not an extra galactic, hyper advanced society or the world's biggest asshole genius, Ruan Tarka.
No. But he's great though. I'm so glad they introduced the wild
dude,
card,
we're gonna paint that thing on your forehead and we're gonna see how that goes.
So here's some things that struck me, some points. The fact that they called it a space-time tunnel. The fact that it has dark matter accretion. The fact that there is a controller at the center. The fact that it resembles a primordial wormhole, except for this fact. The fact that it has extragalactic particles. The fact that it's using energy equivalency of a hypergiant. The fact that it's possibly making subspace toxic. That it somehow resembles, I thought in the last episode, that it resembled a graviton ellipse, which was another stellar phenomenon that was in Voyager, traveling through whatever. And that thing naturally pops in and out of subspace and appears somewhere else in the universe. And they discounted that in this, which I dislike. It's wrong. I think that there's this non-random movement in the DMA. It responded to things. That was my first inkling that it was not a natural phenomenon. That it took them a while to sort of figure out. Obviously, non-random movement means that it has some stimulus. They thought they mentioned it with the most recent episode. The fact that in this episode they mentioned that both the Enterprise and Voyager had gone into subspace rifts, and that they didn't encounter similar phenomenon inside. It was just a total void. And
okay,
I forget I forget the name of the ensign for some reason right now. On
the one who died.
No, on Disco, and they mentioned don't want the pronoun. They mentioned Gray's partner.
Yeah, Adira.
Adira, thank you. Mentioned
I'm
that
like, there are lots of ensigns. I'm gonna need you to.
Yeah,
right.
Well, actually, there's only one now. There's only one now.
I don't mean to keep
That's
going.
true.
Isn't Christopher an ensign? The one that's
No, he's a lieutenant.
No.
Commander.
He got a promotion. Like, we don't ever
He's a
talk
lieutenant.
about it because like he has like 5 lines and throughout the 4 seasons, but like he got a promotion.
Sorry. So the things that I'm possibly thinking about, if I can put this all together, and there's more. I haven't said everything. I don't want to keep going on. I want to give you a chance to respond. I've heard before, I believe in the last episode, Brandon thought it was control. This is very possible because it's a space-time tunnel coming exactly to the space and time where Discovery is. So it's independent of time. Yes, there's the DMA. You have something in the middle. This almost resembles obviously like a black hole. And it looks like there's some super dense core that's almost reminds me of like a neutron star or something spinning at a ridiculous amount of speed. It's generating a crazy amount, or if it has got a hypergiant's amount of energy. The other mind-blowing thing that I've brought up a few times, but it doesn't resemble it enough for me to say, is that it's the spear builders. There's some sort of temporal Cold War happening. Again, it's like the time scape is very different because they're changing the nature of space to make it toxic.
I love you, Manny, but sometimes I really don't think I belong on the same podcast with you, because I looked at that thing and I was like, ooh, that kind of looks like a whale eye from Star Trek 4. And he's like, super giants and science. And I'm like,
so Manny,
I need to be taking notes.
I think about that
There's
part
a test
lot.
later.
We're all like constellations. We're all different facets. Michael.
Manny, I agreed. For the first probably 40 minutes or 30 minutes when I was thinking through it, I was like, this is the spear builders. But I went back and I watched an episode from Enterprise, and what they created in space was ultimately the space around it was like more dense and ultimately similar to like fluidic space. It was almost being converted to matter. What we haven't seen is any of that discussion where we're talking about space being more dense or it being almost kind of turned into matter. So I moved away from that theory because of that. Not to say that I'm not saying that what you're saying can't be true. I totally agree. It could be, but
I moved away from the theory. I'll tell you the next part just after this.
Yeah. Okay. I think like yeah.
Sorry,
that
no.
was my thought.
The other thing that we're not, and I tried to send Jermaine. I don't know if you have the picture of the dot being corroded in space. It's okay if you don't. But there is
so sad. Why?
Yeah.
Why would you make us look at that again?
It's the same thing that happened to Quajon. They were corroded or eaten. They were like the matter itself was changed.
That's so much worse.
Yeah. And so it's either consumed or distributed in some weird way in this void. Yeah, and it screamed. I forgot that the Zora is like inhabiting the dots, right? So there's.
Wait, I'm sorry. I need to get my note out. I need to get my thing out so that I can write down. Manny gives me nightmares.
So that's where I've come to with this ideation. Like I don't want to. There's more there. I just don't want to keep. Apparently, Maria's getting nightmares, so I won't even keep going.
Can I tell Manny? Can I tell you my wacky theory that I have?
Please do it.
This is the humpback whales coming to get us. This is 100%.
It's not Earth, though.
It's cetacean ops. It's cetacean ops.
This is the humpback whales coming to get us because they're pissed. And instead of them coming to drown us, they were like, let's bring the fire. What does it say?
What does that say?
What it says is Manny gives me nightmares, and Michael is following in his footsteps.
I'm telling you,
Technobabble.
Listen, when
It's
they
not even
started talking about sonar,
technobabble. I have to go to sleep tonight and think about the screaming dot, which is clearly designed to be cute, and why they haven't marketed this thing, because I would buy this thing as a plushie like now. But it's got these little eyes and it's screaming, and I'm like, oh, it's the Silence of the Lambs.
Listen, if there is a cosplayer out there who wants to dress me as a dot, I will pay for it. I just need you and your skill. Like, come on. I will be a dot for the next convention.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to need your measurements.
I'm 6'1", 200 pounds.
No. Those aren't the measure. I mean, like, I need like inseam and hip and like.
Listen, I got a good tailor here. I'll have to call. But I really do think. I think that when I heard the sonar discussion, I was like, oh my god, it's the whales. This is whales. The humpbacks are coming to get us. And I really was like, I'm so glad I don't live closer to an ocean, because they're gonna rise up. And that was my feeling.
I do feel that
and so now we know a little bit more about Michael's phobias. Yeah, not gonna touch that one.
I do feel like Control, moving through space and time, trying to catch up with the sphere data, and has somehow made it is either consuming space in a weird way, or like it's somehow found its way, because it's taken the long way around. If it has actually survived, it means it spent 1,000 years itself hiding or doing its own thing, and then maybe it's discovered like some sort of technology where it has found the sphere data. And really, this is all about, because I think the undercurrent of developing Zora will be a counterpoint to either the Control or something else out there that is trying to use Zora. Something, I think. Well, like, when they put too much focus on these characters, I'm glad they brought Gray in. I'm glad that they used Gray
they finally
well.
gave him something to do.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been wondering his purpose for a while now.
I'm like, you're like the ultimate supportive boyfriend. Gotta say, a little jealous of Adira on that front, not gonna lie. But he's like the ultimate supportive boyfriend, and he's just like, go do your thing, and then I'm going to counsel and sort of guide Zora through my mystic trill juju. And I'm like, well, but at least you got screen time, my dude.
I'm glad we got to wrap on Culber, and he got to meet with the Grinch has joined us.
So the Grinch is the extragalactic intelligence that built the DMA, because he's got to find a way to like ruin Christmas and Whoville, and there's nothing like destroying
like
the
the Grinch.
planet Whoville is on.
This is the Grinch.
Oh, it does kind of look like a Grinch eye.
Right? Whale eye, man.
Oh, that's so
whale eye. All
So,
right. Well, I'm gonna need you to back up now.
You do know that you're next, right?
Well, you're gonna have to talk through this.
Who is William?
Is there no truth? Don't be there.
William is unavailable at the moment.
Okay, so Grinch.
Yes.
In episode 4, All Is Possible,
Yes.
Tilly leaves to begin her journey training up and instilling wisdom in cadets in Starfleet Academy. Her departure allows for more character development of some of the other members of the bridge crew. I really loved what I saw when they were given the opportunity to discuss their options on the bridge.
Uh-huh.
It was both light and fun, and then also reminiscent of what we have grown accustomed to, especially as it relates to Next Generation, Voyager, and on.
Sure.
So, Grinch.
How dare you?
Grinch. What are your thoughts about the development of our bridge crew from season 1 up until now?
I'm also going to point out that there's no ADR on a live stream, so just be aware. We need to be able to understand you, Richie.
First of all, it does not take that long to ask a question, Jimmy. Okay? It does not take that. It does not.
It doesn't, but you all are talking all the time, so I need my airtime too.
Pay attention.
Woo, woo! I think we just got called out, ladies and gentlemen. Well, me
Y'all
and
talk too
gentlemen.
much. Y'all talk too much. Now, it's my turn. Thank you. Back to the original question at hand. While I prefer her to be green, I actually like the character Gray. I like him. He's cool. He's real cool. I believe that the
I mean,
departure arc.
he's got a pretty fierce nail polish game. I gotta give him credit.
Yes. He reminds me of Neelix because he looks like a hedgehog. I love the Mohawk. It's really, really good. Accept it, Marie, accept it. That all being said,
We have already started with a mullet joke, guys.
Yes. I have accepted the fact that Tilly's departure had to make room for Gray's character. Just like when Kester Voyager and Seven was coming on board. So I actually loved the personal development of Gray's character. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. The only problem is he's gray and not green. I like green. They should have had me on the show. I came on the show and I auditioned. But no, they wanted someone gray. And I did not like that. So
It's racist.
Didn't try and cast you as an Orion?
I like that.
You
It's
would have
good.
fit in perfect. Wrong season. You would have been
Yes.
perfect.
Oh man.
They said I was.
I'm
too
just leaving that
far.
one alone.
Emerald Chain,
Bye.
led by the Grinch.
They said.
Your heart and your purse were 2 sizes too small.
I have to think about it, but my schedule wouldn't allow it.
I mean, you would ultimately have canonically Orion slave girls, my friend.
5 o'clock, ball and soft pitching. 7 o'clock, dinner with myself. I can't cancel that again. 8 o'clock, ball and soft loading. Well, I suppose I could fit it into my schedule, but they might say I'm 2:30. That's it. Fine. I'm giving. You cannot talk me out of it. I shall become the next Orion head chancellor. Does everyone understand? And
The
Jermaine
next
is
head chancellor of Orion.
Correctly.
Do they have a chancellor? I don't even know.
Well, just
Okay.
the equivalent.
The Grinch will become the first chancellor.
Can we all take this moment to appreciate the shade that Jermaine is giving us right now?
Once again,
Yes.
we get
A
disapproving.
classic Jermaine
face.
pose. I love it.
Yeah, that's the truth. That really, I'm struggling trying to understand what he's saying.
Yes, no, I am too as well.
That's true.
No, I
That's
am as
true.
well.
And that was the whole ADR crack because I was just I gotta say Grinchy, you're
What?
gonna have to work on. You must speak a
What?
little more clearly.
I love the aside with Oishakun. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Oishkun?
Yeah,
At the end,
yeah, and how she apologized to Saru, and they had a little more character development there. I like that she tried to do I think that humanized her a little bit. I liked Saru again. I will come back to Saru being a very important piece to all of this.
His
I love
speeches are just getting better and better.
Yeah, his character
Oh my
development
god!
is
He
great.
is like Daddy Saru.
Mhm. He's going to be
And
I think, very key.
I don't mean that in a sexual way. That's not it. He's kind of like the general dad of the group, and he comes over and he's just like, "Let me impart my wisdom in a supportive and loving manner," and everyone's like, "We don't know what healthy relationships like that look like. We're a little confused right now."
Well, and I think that going back to the question about the bridge, I think that is something that we have missed. We haven't seen a lot of because it hasn't been there. TNG, everyone used to go into not the ready room,
the briefing
The
room,
observation
briefing room, observation lounge. There we go. And they would all huddle. They would talk about it, have a fierce debate. That we really haven't seen that, but
it was the 80s and 90s, Michael. Of course they had to have conferences.
There was a conference space, mandatory.
Well, one thing though,
These days it would be
so
Zoom.
in Enterprise, they didn't do that in Enterprise either. And so to me, what's happening is the next generation was kind of like the evolution of all of that. And so I think it's appropriate now that they're in the future, that we kind of move towards that. In other words, that might be the norm in Starfleet at that point. And so, and also another thing that I told Michael, this particular episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes. And I wonder whether that was like part of him saying, let's do something about this. Because to me, this particular episode surpassed all the other episodes because I got to see each individual officer act and perform from the perspective of their position, and that to me was, that was magic for me.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you.
I agree.
It also looks a whole lot better coming off of the examples, which is, while it had some pretty solid elements to it, was largely mid-season filler.
Agreed.
Which is unfortunate in a 13-episode season.
Good point. Jermaine has made that point as well about the length of how these used to be and packing them into like a tighter episodic space. So you just feel like you should get more, like more punch to that. So having even a little bit of filler seems like a cheat. I totally agree. It has that wonderful TNG feeling to it, where you finally have something threatening them in a way where their individual talents or whatever it is that they bring to the fore, like Gray coming onto the bridge, and then Burnham using Gray, you're with me. Zora, you're with me. Using Zora as like a crewmate, using Gray as a crewmate, which is so Picard, right? And then just saying and then figuring it out in her ready room, fantastic. I loved it.
Well, I really
felt
back to
like the disconnect. Sorry, but going back to like the disconnect between like, remember that Discovery comes. Is that me?
I don't know. Maybe.
Did we just warp back in time? Because I thought that was.
I think that's what it was.
I really hit a temporal rift.
That was
Marie's voices clashed and created a temporal rift. I love it.
There was a delay.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, that was dope.
But did anybody else
Can you
feel
guys hear me now?
was an amazing captain in this episode?
Yeah.
That again?
That
I
Burnham
thought
was
she was great.
captain.
She was awesome.
It's the first time
it was,
Can you hear me?
I didn't think about it. In fact, I thought about the fact that Burnham and Book reminded me so much of Cisco and his partner Cassidy, because she was the courier, like running the regular courier things, and he kept having a recurring thing with the father saying, "You should have been going to the couriers. You don't have to listen to whatever." And Cassidy and Cisco reminded me very much of, with their genders reversed, of Book and Burnham, where she's leading it and that they're like side by side, even when they were on the planet and stuff like that. It very much felt like one is Starfleet and one isn't. Like it had that really great. Anyway, that occurred to me as they were.
Also, I love that we haven't touched on Book's daddy issues. Like we've just like not. We're like, no.
I gotta be honest.
Do you guys think?
Do you think that trying to go with it? And so it seemed like it was kind of in my question. Well, I won't get into it yet. But I do have a theory about that. But I think I have to save it before I dive into it.
I think, and this is a great place actually, because we all have like nut bar crazy predictions, and I think Jermaine is all about teasing those out of us.
Y'all, it's the comments right now. It's the comments. Yeah. All right, so let's do this. So I don't know what anyone is going to say as it relates to these predictions. What I want to do is I want to start with Manny, then go to Marie, then William, then Michael, then Robin. Hopefully,
my name is not William.
The Grinch.
Okay.
Hopefully we can remember our orders, because I know that I won't. All right, so predictions. What is it that you hold on? Let me get my wording together. I don't have my wording. So basically, by the end of this season? What is going to happen between Burnham and Book? Go, Manny.
I think that Book is developing really like a lot as his own character. They're both in love. He affirmed that love with his father, the hallucination of his father. They both affirmed their love again. They've spent a year together, like independent of everything else, so they're actually super entangled. I think that it's really awesome and amazing to see a captain maintain a relationship. I think they're going to keep that. I don't see him leaving anytime soon. They might have a tearful goodbye, but it'll be on good terms. I think that he'll be essential. He might sacrifice his life, and that's how they get rid of him. But I don't think there'll be a rift between them. If they do have an ethical issue, and they kind of teased that in the last episode, I don't think that'll be the thing to break them. I think there'll be some existential or like physical threat that'll like actually separate them.
I'm not ready to get rid of Book. I'm not ready to get rid of Book. I need them to be the happy ending. Like I do. I mean, because I think we're no, Robin, don't break my heart. Stop. I see that face. No, I need them to be the happy ending because also I want him to stay on the show for the sheer eye candy, if nothing else. But also David Ayala has been the sleeper hit of this season. He is knocking it out of the park in terms of performance every single minute he's on screen. And it's been fantastic getting to watch him sort of flex those acting chops. Also, as an aside, I have a completely bonkers prediction. I don't think it's whales coming after us. I think it's the centipedes from frickin' Conspiracy. Did you see that? The mark on Tarka's neck?
Yes.
Bear in mind, we haven't seen him eat anything. He could be chowing down on grubs and mealworms.
But did you see anything like come out of the skin? I didn't see anything.
No, it was a branding, and he mentioned our anger. Anger as a motivation.
Maybe
we're not going back to
Marie, they've evolved. Is that what it is?
I'm guessing.
Skin gate? What skin gate? What's the skin gate? Grinch.
Well, this is what I think. And can you guys hear me better now?
Yes.
Good. All right, so this is what I think. I think that we are getting closer and closer to Calypso. And I think that is awesome because we are seeing more emotion from Zora, and that is great. But as far as what I think about Book and Burnham's relationship, this is a far-fetched one, but this is one William is not willing to make, which is why I'm here. I think the devil herself, President Tinkertot, is going to get in between Burnham and Book.
The president
And
really
I
is.
said what I said.
Oh,
She is
my
the
God.
devil. And I know this because I sat with the devil next to hell, smoke a blunt with him and everything. So that all being said,
I'm sorry, I
think-
need like subtitles.
I will tell you.
Wait. I think it's amazing that I have not uttered those words this entire episode, but the Grinch has.
Well, right, because he needed to
I'm telling you.
channel his inner anti-Cardi Germain.
Listen to what I'm trying to tell you.
Like, Jermaine's over here pretending to be all nice and
Look at me.
professional and nonsense. Nah, y'all. No, man's got a problem with Cardi's.
Oh no.
Now listen very carefully. I will tell you how it will happen.
And
The
we moved
president
from the
pickle
Grinch to
tot-
some sort of like crazy Russian villain. So
Hey! It's my turn.
Make it quick. We gotta go.
President Tinkertot. Yes! President Tinkertot will get in between Burnham and Book, thus proving Book's father correct. He will be a reoccurring supporting character. We will see him again. Something will happen that Burnham is going to have to choose. Book is going to look at Book like she's crazy and be like, you don't even like her. Why are you going with what she said? Oh, it's for the good of the Federation. Oh, the Federation. And Book's going to be like, but I thought you loved me. And Burnham's going to be like, but I love the Federation more. And they will be separated for 1,000 years, and this is when Calypso will happen. They will be separated. We will see them again halfway through season 5.
I
And
gotta
that
tell you,
is my
Robin,
prediction
whatever you've got
on
to
their
say,
relationship.
it's not gonna make me hate you as much as I hate the Grinch right now.
Grinch
Speak now
Grinch is
or
going to
forever
be
hold your
on
peace.
timeout. Anytime we see the Grinch on this show, we're just
It's gonna be an automatic
X him
mute.
out.
We're like, all right, no.
I'm telling you. Speak now or forever hold your peace, but just know that I will always object.
I'm just ready for life choices.
you're still in my place. Michael, what are your predictions as it relates to the relationship of Book and Burnham?
Book and
TikTok forever
Burnham.
good all day.
For Book and Burnham, I am similar to Manny. I think that what we saw during the relationship, during the hallucination of his father, was a lot of insecurities. And I think that the discussion of those insecurities really are laying the groundwork for the separation and the split between them. I also, and this is just kind of like from a production standpoint.
I hate you all.
Listen. I'm sorry.
Not as much as I hate you.
But
Did you hear that?
You talk too much.
No, I heard. Okay.
it was like a word vomit for a moment. But I just think, just looking at the production, just the general production, it's a really crowded production. And I think they're having a really tough time finding enough space to develop all these characters. And when you have that, when the question is, who do we develop? Who do we cut? So I really think this is a decision of, we got to start cutting. And so I suspect that by the end of the season, either they will break up or they will kill him off. And it's just, even
They
though
will not kill him off.
or
Who
you
gets
know,
Grudge?
maybe
They will not
they're
kill
gonna
him off.
they're gonna enter into an open relationship, send him to Ryza, and he's just gonna live there, and Burnham will call him up whenever she needs him.
I ran out of
open
wine,
relationship,
Michael.
you
I ran out of
can
wine. You
talk.
can't
You
do
just
this to me if I don't have booze.
I'm serious, but I will say, and it hurts me to say this because I really have hope of seeing Book in that blue season 3 suit again as a lieutenant. Because listen, I literally went back and watched that episode, and I was like, wait a minute, Book.
They are gonna kill Saru. When are you gonna get that through your heads? It's Saru.
All right,
that has to
Richie.
go.
All
The
right,
book is
Richie.
gonna
We gotta go to
live.
Robin. We gotta go to Robin because she has something truly terrible to tell us.
Robin, your predictions, Rob. The Grinch, I'm about to put you.
Huh?
I'm about to mute you. Hold up, wait a minute. Let me click the mute button. Robin,
My prediction about Book and Burnham. Obviously, Burnham acts on fire, and he just does not know what it is. Anyway, so I kind of echo everything everybody's been saying. I don't think there's much of a future for Book. I'm sorry, Murray.
Oh!
You kind of have going on, right? He's gonna get a little bit more character development. You know, we're gonna move past this PTSD phase of his life. And mind you, I'm not caught up on Discovery. I haven't seen episode 5 and 6 yet. So I don't know too much about what's going on currently, but I do think we're going to get over the PTSD. We're going to come to a place, they're going to start having some conflicts, either because of Burnham's allegiance to the Federation or because of Book's PTSD. I do think that we are going to be saying goodbye to Book at the end of the season. Sorry, Marie.
I can't believe I am the champ. Like me, I am the champion for like love and happiness here. Like this is kind of killing me because there's such a great, healthy relationship. Like they're trying to work through this together, and we see so few models for this in Star Trek. I don't know. I don't want to say goodbye.
all right. Final prediction for the night. We're at the 1 hour mark, y'all. Of course, I have no way of understanding what the writers have in store for them. However, I see these cracks as severe. I do not have high hopes they will last beyond this season. However, I do believe it was interesting that in Stormy Weather, Burnham made the comment that her past trauma made her so empathetic. It made me wonder whether that trauma and the resulting empathy made them suitable for each other. So I don't know exactly what their relationship will look like, but I know that the two of them are destined for each other. I just see changes about to occur. Um, everyone, I really do want to thank all of you all for joining us. This concludes our 5th live episode of Trekker's Delight. Stay tuned to next week's episode. We are going to provide you with additional content about Discovery and her crew. So check into us Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and of course Thursdays during our live show. We are changing our schedule up just a little bit. So stay tuned for that. Always check in. Please, as always, like, follow, subscribe, add, comment, and share to stay delighted in Trek. As always, I am Jermaine Watson, and you've been listening or watching Trekker's Delight. May you have peace and long life. All right. Now it's time for our video, y'all.